So I was scrolling through the internet, minding my own business, looking for YouTube material, when I came across this website. It seemed a little boring at first, but then I started looking into it. Books and Culture, a Christian Perspective, describing themselves on their Twitter page as a bi-monthly review that engages the contemporary world from a Christian perspective. I was curious, so I took a closer look. Now I simply feel numb from laughter. Of all the moronic sentiments expressed in their articles, the one that most caught my eye was this one, an article by Dennis Lamoureux titled, "Adam, Where Art Thou?" The first part that made me laugh was when I saw a statement he reiterated from his book, which was, "Adam never existed, and this fact has no impact whatsoever on the foundational beliefs of Christianity." The reason I found this funny is because Books and Culture is essentially owned by Christianity Today, an evangelist magazine. On their website, under their core beliefs section, you can see that they say God created Adam and Eve in his own image. By disobedience they fell from their sinless state through the temptation by Satan. This fall plunged humanity into a state of sin and spiritual death, and brought upon the entire race the sentence of eternal death. Well, isn't that lovely? You know these people are really good at parties. And yet they'll publish a guy who so blatantly denies one of their core tenets. It boggles the mind the way these people work. But that is the least idiotic thing I found with this article. The thing that most caught my attention was this, the figure that they provided to explain the universe. Are you kidding me? This is your model for explaining the structure of the entire universe. As pervasively childish and ignorant as this model is, and which Dennis actually goes on to cite as fact, the mathematics behind this would be rather fascinating indeed. Since he doesn't provide a key to determine the scale of this model, I'm going to make a bedrock assumption that it is to scale in terms of the distances from Earth, at least for this video. So let's get to some calculations. First, we need to make some assumptions that the distance between Earth and the supposed firmament is about 100 kilometers, the same as the distance between Earth and the Kármán line, considered to be an approximate area where the atmosphere ends and outer space begins. So in this model, we see that the Sun is around 90 kilometers away. First, we take the angular diameter of the Sun, which is around 0.5 degrees. Then we take the distance between Earth and the Sun in this model, which is 90 kilometers. We plug in our values, and using basic trigonometry, we find that the Sun, according to Creationist mathematics, is around 785 meters in diameter. That is over 700 times smaller than Lake Superior's length. But let's try imagining the amount of energy condensed into an area 700 times smaller than Lake Superior. Well, the total energy output of the Sun per year is approximately 12 decillion joules of energy. For those who aren't too familiar with scientific notation, this basically means a 1 and a 2 with 33 zeros after it. The superscript above the 10 just shows how many places you need to move the decimal place to get the actual number, but it's far more practical to show large or small numbers in this way. 1 ton of TNT releases around 4.2 billion joules, so the amount of TNT required to match the Sun's total energy output per year is around 2.8 septillion tons of TNT. But for the purposes of the rest of these calculations related to energy, I should convert tons to megatons. After the conversion, we find that the amount of TNT required to match the Sun's total energy output per annum is around 3 quintillion megatons of TNT. But that's still not quite in perspective, so let's go a little further with putting that into context. As it turns out, 1 megaton of TNT is enough to fuel an American home for over 100,000 years. So according to our calculations, the amount of energy released by the sun per year in total, assuming you could harvest all of it and put it into a 100% efficient system, would be enough to power an American home for 300 sextillion years. After reaching the end of our calculations here, we find that the amount of TNT required to match the sun's total energy output is also the same amount that could be used to fuel every home in the United States for 2.5 quadrillion years each. And that's just what the sun releases per year. Now imagine that amount of energy condensed into an area and emitted by an object that is less than 800 meters in diameter. Either his model is to scale and the sun is unbelievably tiny, yet still releasing huge quantities of energy, or it is its full size and distance from the Earth and is somehow on the same orbital path as the Moon. This is the thing I'm always wondering when creationists try and do science. How can they make these models up and not have an urge to test them, to measure them, and see if they are consistent with our observations? I think we should stick to the non-physics defying solar system and enjoy the hilarious and breathtaking ignorance of creationism. We'll talk more about how inaccurate Dennis's model is on the next episode of Exposing Creationist Nonsense.